Do you know someone who had a crush that went too far? Jason only loved two things, butterflies and Angie. He wanted to ask her out for ages, but never had the courage to. He was always kind of a strange kid, with his obsession with butterflies and all. All his school supplies in his room were all decorated with butterflies. People at school didn't know much about him except that. Some rumors flew around every once in a while though. Some people even said that his mother had gifted him a butterfly resin before she passed away. Angie, however, never made fun of him. In fact, when Jason asked her on Halloween weekend if he could drive her to a costume party together, she thought it was charming, but things took a dark turn quickly. At first, the car ride was awkward, but not anything to be worried about. Then Angie looked at her phone and saw that they passed the address of the party. She said, "Hey, you're going the wrong way," but there was only a grin on Jason's face. The next day, police found both Angie and Jason. Jason was lying on the ground, cold, but above him, Angie was strung up on the ceiling, with two large pieces cut out from her back and opened up to look like wings. Never play this game with your friends. Once there was a group of girls who heard about the game Baby Blue. They didn't believe in it but thought they could scare their friend Laura. So they sent Laura into a bathroom by herself. She turned off the lights, closed the door, and put her arms out as if to hold a baby. Then started chanting Baby Blue 13 times. What happened next cannot be explained. Laura felt a heavy weight in her arms. Then she felt the weight in her arms scratching her. She was terrified and didn't know what to do. She wanted to drop it, but she was afraid of what might happen if she did, so she froze, and the weight grew heavier and heavier. Suddenly, she saw a woman in the bathroom mirror with a twisted look on her face. She screamed in terror. When her friends heard her scream, they tried to open the door, but it was locked. When they finally opened the door, they found Laura on the floor. Her eyes had been scratched out. They tried to move her body, but they couldn't, because something large and invisible was pinning her to the ground. If you ever hear someone whistling, don't do what she did. Once a girl moved to Peru with her dad, who started a new job as an English teacher. But one night something strange happened. She looked out the window and saw a long dark shadow moving through the trees. Then as the shadow approached her bedroom window, she heard a whistling sound. Not thinking much of it, she began whistling back to it. Her father came to check on her and found her daughter still facing the windows, whistling to something unknown. He asked, "What are you doing?" And she replied, "Whistling at the dark figure in the trees." And as soon as the father looked outside, he took his daughter and locked her in the closet. Then he broke the key in the lock and locked the windows. And from the inside of the closet, the girl could hear her father saying prayers, but all of a sudden it stopped. Then she heard a scream. The bedroom windows shattered and she heard her father's screams fade into the distance. The next morning, the girl was found by villagers investigating the damage to the house. Her father was never found, and eventually she was adopted by her aunt and uncle. Years later, she still sleeps inside a locked closet, in fear that the dark creature that once whistled to her would someday return for her.
This is why you should never stay in sketchy motels. In 2005, a young woman on a solo road trip across the country decided to stop for the night. The first place she sees is the Mountaintop Motel. It looked pretty cheap, but she was tired, so she said good enough. The check-in guy eyed her up and down very uncomfortably and then asked her if she was traveling alone. She ignores the question, pays for her room, and then walks away with the key. When she gets inside her room and sees there are literally cockroaches in her bed, she says nope and decides to sleep in her car in the parking lot. Around 3 a.m., she wakes up to see the check-in guy using his own keys to get into the motel room she was supposed to be in. A few minutes later, he storms out and slams the door and starts walking towards her car. Terrified, she hides under her blanket as the man tries to open her car doors but can't and walks away. She speeds off and calls her friend and asks her to look up the address of Mountaintop Motel so she can give it to police. Her friend's quiet for a second and then just says, "The Mountaintop Motel closed a week ago."
This is why you should never let someone borrow your phone charger. Once there was a young woman named Betty who was home alone when she heard a knock at her door. She opened it and saw a young man standing there. He said his car broke down and his phone battery ran out, so he needed to borrow a charger. Wanting to help, Betty let him in and made him tea while his phone charged. This would be a devastating mistake because soon things started getting suspicious. They were chatting on the couch when the man brought up that he recently got into filmmaking and it was his dream to make his own movie. No special effects, no camera tricks, he wanted to make everything seem real. But he didn't want to make any kind of movie. He wanted to make his own horror movie. Betty started feeling uncomfortable, so she hinted that she wanted to go to bed soon. Then, as she stood up from the couch, she noticed something she didn't see before. And this changed everything. Underneath the man's jacket was a glowing red light, the red light of a camera that was recording.
Don't open your eyes. On the last day of every month, close the blinds or curtains before you sleep. If in the middle of the night you hear a tapping noise at your window, don't open your eyes. If you're one of the unlucky ones, you'll hear the pebble sound at your window. It's not a friend, just keep your eyes shut. The sound will get louder, the tapping will get faster and faster. Don't let your curiosity get the better of you. Don't move. It'll lose its patience, it'll start thumping the window. Your window will shake and shudder, and the noises will only get louder. It will furiously pound the window and shake the panes. Don't worry, the window won't break, but for goodness sake, don't open your eyes. No matter how scared you are, no matter how badly you want to scream, pretend you don't hear, pretend you're still asleep. After a while, the noises will stop. Don't fall for it. Keep your eyes shut. Try to sleep if you can. Don't get up. Don't open your eyes until the sun comes up. Those who do open their eyes, well, no one really knows.
If you wake up in the middle of the night, don't do what they did. Once there was a girl named Bailey who went to a sleepover at a friend's house. But when her parents went to pick her up the next day, something terrifying happened. So Bailey got home pretty late, ate dinner, and went to bed. But in the middle of the night, Bailey woke her parents up. Her dad asked, "What are you up for? It's so late," struggling to put his glasses on. Then Bailey tugged at his shirt sleeve and said, "Guess how old I'm going to be next month?" "I don't know," her dad said, thinking this was some kind of joke. "How old?" Bailey smiled and held up 4 fingers. It's about 7 in the morning now, and Bailey's parents have been awake for almost 8 hours. Still, Bailey refuses to tell her parents where she got them from. Follow for more stories. If you've ever thought about getting your ears pierced, don't do what she did. This is the urban legend about a girl in Japan who tried to do it, then ended up with horrifying consequences. So this young girl really wanted to get her ears pierced. After some pleading with her parents, they finally agreed and gave her some money to go do it. But instead, the girl kept the money and decided to pierce them herself and let her friend help her. They heated up a large needle and went for it one day. It was painful, but in the end, she was happy she could finally wear earrings. However, this wouldn't last long. One day in school, she felt an intense pain in her left ear. Her earlobe was itchy, and by the end of the day, she had a headache. She went into the bathroom and saw her ear was very inflamed. Then she looked closer and saw a piece of white string sticking out of her new piercing. She picked and pulled at it, which only made the string longer. Now it was hanging out of her earlobe. The string seemed to be endless. The more she pulled, the longer it got. Finally fed up, she took a pair of scissors and cut the string. Suddenly, everything went black. There was a burning pain in her ears and her eyes. She began to scream. In the hospital, it was revealed that it wasn't a piece of string at all. She had pulled out a piece of her optic nerve and cut it. She would be blind for the rest of her life. She could have never guessed what really happened in her basement. Once there was a girl named Brooklyn who moved into an old house with her parents, but there was one door leading to their basement and no one could open it. This made Brooklyn curious, so one day she looked through the keyhole, but she could have never expected what happened next. She saw something moving in the darkness, then quickly coming towards her. As soon as she jumped back, a screwdriver poked through the keyhole. Brooklyn was terrified. She screamed, "Mom, Dad, there's someone in the basement," but no one believed her. Until a few years later, she finally found out the truth, which was even more terrifying than anything she could have imagined. Her family had moved out of the house already, but Brooklyn returned to the area to visit an old friend. She walked by the house and said, "I used to live there." And her friend said, "Yeah, the screwdriver house." Brooklyn instantly had chills. She never told anyone about what happened. She asked, "Why did you just say that?" And that's when her friend told her the story. Shortly after the house was built, a husband, his wife, and their 4 daughters moved in. The wife passed away from a mysterious illness and the husband went in. This is why you should not listen to your teacher. Once something terrifying happened to Sophia when she got to school. She went to class as usual when her teacher burst into the room and said, "Sophia, I have some bad news." She was shocked and embarrassed to be called out like that in front of her whole class. Her teacher then said, "Get your things. I just got off the phone with your father. He said your mom was in a horrible accident and he's gonna pick you up now and take you to the hospital." Sophia instantly froze in horror. She tried to explain, but her teacher kept interrupting her. "Why are you just standing around? Get your things now." But Sophia wouldn't move. She knew something wasn't right. She said, "I don't have a father. He passed away long ago and I never got to meet him. I was raised by a single mother all my life." To this day, Sophia still doesn't know who that man was claiming to be her father and what he planned to do if she had gone with him. Have you ever felt like you've forgotten something but can't remember exactly what you forgot? Well, for this one woman, this feeling would lead to a terrifying discovery. She was on the bus on her way home from work one night when she was certain she left something behind in the office. She thought to herself, maybe it's nothing. She had a long day and she just wanted to go home for the night. But of course, she could have never expected the horrifying truth. This feeling of not being able to remember what she forgot became more and more intense. She thought about everything that happened that day. Her boss staring at her creepily, the secretaries gossiping, then she bumped into a man on the bus. She quickly said sorry, but he ignored her. As the bus came to her stop, she stood outside her home and couldn't shake the feeling anymore. She had to go back to the office to find out exactly what she forgot. It was very late at night at this point, but she made it back. She ran up the stairs and opened the office door, but what she saw could only be described as unimaginable. As this woman slowly knelt down on the floor, she finally realized what she left behind. It was her body lying on the floor, strangled to death. This is why you should never get in a hot tub at night. A couple was staying at a beach resort for their honeymoon, and on the last night they decided to go to the outdoor hot tub to watch the stars. Before they went on this trip, they decided they would bring no laptops, tablets, or cameras. Only their phones for emergencies, which they also left inside their suitcases. Still, after a while, the woman found the scenery so beautiful that she said, "I wish I could get a picture of us so I can post it on Facebook." She wanted to go back inside the room to get her phone, but her husband encouraged her to just live in the moment. They stayed out there for a while until the jets went off and they went back into their rooms and just went to sleep. The next morning, the man noticed something under their door. He thought it was just a bill for their room, but it wasn't until the woman saw the look on his face that she realized something was wrong. He was holding a Polaroid picture of them from the night before. On the white part in the bottom were the words, "Here you go." It was taken from inside the room.
Can you work out this riddle? First try. You're driving a bus with nobody on it. At the first stop, there were two people waiting to get on the bus. And then at the second stop, one person gets off. At the third stop, one more person gets off the bus, while three more get on. But the question here is, what colour were the bus driver's eyes? If you can solve it, send it to a friend to see if they can too.